How's it going, everybody? My name is Blitzwinger, ladies and gents. Welcome on back, finally, to a brand new episode of LEGO Recipes for LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2. Of course, I have been seeing many of your awesome suggestions for what other recipes you would like to see us cook up on future episodes, but for that, I need you guys to do something for me, and that is to hit that like button on this episode of LEGO Recipes to let me know that you want to see more of these. And then in addition to that, I want you to take a quick moment and let me know down in the comment section below, like, hey Blitz, I really want you to go on ahead and show us how to create Wolverine or a character like we've already done, like Aquaman, whoever it might be. Ideally, obviously, a character that we have not created before on an episode of Recipes. So let me know down in the comments section below. With that being said, who are we creating today? Well, he's already created. He's right next to me here, and that is Cable. So I think that this is an absolutely amazing custom. I don't want to, like, toot my own horn too much here, because it's like, well, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. You got to keep that ego in check. But I will say that this is a ridiculously good rendition of Cable. I'm really happy with this design. I think that this is the best LEGO Recipes so far. I just think that it looks a lot like older Cable. Yes, there are some little things that are missing or inaccurate. Like, for example, typically it's Cable's left eye that is like robotic or glowing and everything like that. So that's a bit of a obviously inaccuracy there. And some other elements are inaccurate, like the printing on the torso and everything like that. But I will explain it all as we go through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to the customizer. We're going to run bit by bit so that you guys get a good idea of what I went ahead and used for this particular recipe and why it works. So here we have Cable, and of course, as you can see, again, pretty awesome rendition. So some of the key elements that you really have to think about when you think of Cable are these. Of course, the eye component, so that's important. Another component is the metallic arm, the left arm, so that's another really key element. And then in addition to that, just like Deadpool, Cable is drawn with tons and tons of pouches. He's usually got lots of belt buckles, lots of little bags and little crevices in which he hides, like, I guess maybe ammo and whatever else he needs for his missions. So those were kind of the key elements that I was keeping in mind when designing this character. Like, those were the things that I needed to have in this character to make it feel like Cable. And of course, he's always carrying a big giant gun, so that kind of is a key component of his particular design as well. So let's begin. We're gonna go on ahead and start at the top and work our way through. So the hair that we chose for him is the flat top, just because, again, that's the typical hairstyle that we see for Cable. If you want, obviously you do not have to use the flat top. You could go on ahead and use something like this as well. I just feel like the flat top gives you that little bit of extra oomph, and it makes it look more kind of like a typical 90s character, action hero type character, and that's really when Cable was created, I believe. So it fits the design, the character, and the motif that we're going for. Now, for the head, we could have done or gone ahead and done other faces, other heads. I've seen some people use the Nick Fury torso or head piece and go on ahead and use that. I just feel like the goatee doesn't really work. What I like about the Odin face is that it's got the full beard and it's got this kind of rustic, older look for Cable. Again, there are some other options. I know some people like this. I don't know why. I feel like that does not work for Cable. I don't really get the motif there outside of, like, okay, well, you got the eye to glow and it's the wrong eye still, but it's like he's not half robotic like that, so I don't really get the use of that particular face. Again, you could pick and choose some other faces. You could use something where it's just standard fare, no facial hair, no like expressions, just like a regular face, kind of like that, like Loki. You could do that as well if that's something that you personally feel works. But I am a huge fan of the design that you get using Odin's face. So that's what we're going to go with there. Now, for neck pieces, we are not using anything. Again, the beard is really taken care of on the print work as it is, so it looks really nice there. No helmets utilized or anything like that. Then we move on to attachments. Now, for attachments, you can go a couple of different ways actually here. I know that a lot of people like this one right here, and I think that it looks pretty good. I just don't like how narrow this piece is. Like, I wish if this shoulder pad was as wide as these shoulder pads in terms of how wide they are, I would have definitely used this one because I think it works better for the design that we typically see on Cable. But I really am a fan of the way that these shoulder pads look, just because they make the character look more like a big fig instead of a minifig, and they really do add that little bit of oomph that is necessary for Cable. Because typically if we put Cable next to a standard sized character from the Marvel Universe, he's usually quite a bit taller, quite a bit more muscular, and so on and so forth. So the idea is that by using the shoulder pads here, we're trying to get that illusion to come through for this particular design. Again, you could use these ones right here as well if you like. I'm not a particularly big fan of those at all. And then if you want to go completely crazy, you could go on ahead and use that, for example, as well. So you've got a good selection of shoulder pads and pieces that you could use. You could use these ones right here, but what I don't like about these two options here is the fact that the colors are silver, and I'm trying to have that little bit of gold there because I think it works a lot better for what we're going for. All right, so it looks like this removed his flat top, which is a little annoying, but there we go. So we got that taken care of. Now, moving along from there to the hands. The hands we're just going to go on ahead and have gloved up on both sides. So that's one thing, is that some people do the blue glove on one side, like on the right hand, and then they have the silver on the left. He usually doesn't wear blue gloves on either way, so that's why we're going to go on ahead and use both hands there. The body that I chose is the Taskmaster. There are other really, really good options here. You could use the Stakar Ogard. I think that that works just as well. It gives you a bit more of a kind of leather jacket kind of feel, of course. If you want, you could also go on ahead and scroll up. I just don't want to skip it. Almost there. All right. You could use this if you want, the Beta Ray Bill. I just don't like the fact that the Beta Ray Bill one doesn't have any pouches or anything like that, so that's why I don't use that one. And Blue Marvel is another good option if you want kind of a cleaner look. Again, the lack of pouches and such, for me, does not make it particularly great. But if you like it, you can go on ahead and utilize that as your personal choice as well. So again, you have plenty of options available to you as far as the specificity that you want, but I like the Taskmaster torso because it's got all the belt buckles and belts going across, and I think that that works really, really well for Cable. Speaking of belt buckles and the like, for the left arm, I went ahead and used the M11 arm. Now, again, M11 is one of the DLC characters, so if you're like, oh, but I don't have the DLC, what do I do? Well, then what you're going to go on ahead and do is one of two things. You have another option in the form of scrolling all the way down and then using the Winter Soldier arm, which is not great because, or not terrible because it's got the metallic feel, but it does have the not particularly great element about it is the red star there, because it's like, well, Cable doesn't have that. It's just a metallic arm. So that could be one option. If you don't like that option, if you're like, no, that looks terrible, blah, 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 you could obviously just go on ahead and just use a gray piece like that. I just don't like the fact that it's so flat looking. But if you are fortunate like myself to have the DLC, I guess you could kind of use that one there too. Electra 2099. It sort of works. It's got the metallic kind of components going through. I actually really like that. So you know what? Let's use that so that you guys don't worry about the DLC side of things. Like if you don't have the DLC, you would not be able to use the arm that I used before. So we'll use that one, and I think it looks just as good. So I really like the details there. Then on the right arm, I went ahead and used the Bowman hand and or arm. And the reason for that, again, I like the belt buckle piece. I like that little bit of gold there. It creates a nice combination with his shoulder pads. And again, more belt buckles, better. It kind of is like a Rob Liefeld key element that he utilized for most of the characters that he came up with. So you could see like Deadpool, tons and tons of pouches and belt buckles and so on and so forth. Same thing goes for Cable. So I think that it works really well there as well. Now, hips was the most annoying thing to find. I was looking through these, I was trying to see like, okay, maybe something that's brown to kind of go along with the belt buckle piece and so on and so forth. And I couldn't really find anything until I got to Nova Prime. And I really like the way that the Nova Prime piece looks. I think it transitions nicely between the torso into the leg piece. So that was the actual one that I used. Again, it doesn't mean that that's the only one that you can use. You could cycle through and try to find something that is more satisfactory to you specifically. But I just really like the transition of this piece and how natural it looks in terms of fitting between the two different looks that you're using. Now for the legs, again, going back to the whole pouches, belt buckles, and so on and so forth, we have Stakar Ogard. Again, yes, I am aware of the fact that this is a DLC piece. That's the best piece, in my opinion, that you could go for Cable. But once again, when I say that, it does not mean that that's the only piece that you can go for. You could go on ahead and use this, for example. Again, it's not the greatest color of brown because it doesn't match the Taskmaster torso, but it still looks pretty darn good. And of course, you can go on ahead and improvise if you're like, hey, I just want him to wear black pants or something like that. You could do that as well. Just, I would suggest when you do that, don't just use flat black. Try to use stuff like this where it's got, again, pouches and belt buckles and so on and so forth. That's the element that I would be looking out for. Like, stuff like that is just too techy and futuristic in my opinion. You need to have, again, belt buckles, pouches, so on and so forth, if you want to have that kind of classic Cable look. So that's why, for me personally, I would say that the Stakar Ogard is the way to go. Plus, I really like when the leg pieces have two separate colors for the boots and the pants, because then, again, you get that little bit of extra detail, and always, always, if you can have a little bit of extra detail, it's well worth the work. So with that, we have our recipe cooked up. As far as all the passive abilities, this is kind of the summarized list of what I felt like would be correct. I went ahead and gave him just regular fighting and then a targeted lunge over here. Over on this end, we have our bolt attack for the gun, of course, his blaster, and then another targeted lunge for him. I did go on ahead and give him a double tap, or double jump, I should say. No hyper jump necessary, or I guess it would be awesome, but it's not really fitting the character. Health type is standard. Health icon, I went for white just so that it kind of looks futuristic-y, kind of robotic-y. I was hoping it would be gray, but it looks white. Then we've got, of course, voice, which I never really bother with. Then we've got fast, speed movement. I do have this kind of futuristic-looking reticle that fits kind of his main three colors, which is gold, blue, and the gray or silver. So I think that that works really well. And then miscellaneous, of course, I just put him on the back of this purple background because I think it stood out really, really nicely. If you want to make it more accurate, you could make him a part of like a futuristic city like that, or like that. So that's really just a personal preference from there. It doesn't really matter what you do. But here's what I want to do, guys. Starting with this episode, I want to see your guys' takes on Cable. So if you created Cable, go on ahead and use Instagram or Twitter, or both if you'd like, and send it my way. You can tag me at Blitzwinger. You could use hashtag Blitzwinger or Blitzarmy or something along those lines, and send me your creations, because I want to see your takes. Like, what kind of a Cable did you come up with? Because I am honestly really, really, really proud of the way that this guy turned out. I think he looks super duper cool and very, very, very awesome. So I would love to also see your takes. Hey, maybe you took this recipe and you're like, hey, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of this or a little bit of that. And what were those elements? Maybe you could do a better version, and I would love to see that, because, hey, then I could make my version of Cable that much better as well. So thank you guys so very much for watching. Of course, don't forget, like I said at the top of this video, if you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button. On top of that, let me know what character you would like to see customized next time. And do not forget, Twitter, Instagram, at Blitzwinger, tweet me your takes of the Cable character. Peace out. I'll see you later, alligators. Bye-bye, everyone.